Hi, 8th grade. We are now in English class, so I went ahead and changed my shirt. If you started off in writing, I did that more for my own sake, so I could tell the difference between the videos. But maybe it'll probably help you guys too. James is still chilling out back there. If you haven't noticed him back there, still need to manage to get that up on the wall eventually. But anyway, he's just gonna chill there. He's fine. So anyway, back to English class. See, I gotta throw in the random things since you guys aren't there to do it for me. So anyway, back to English class, but basically just to explain some things on how English is going to look, let me pull up y'all's grade link teacher page right here real quick. Okay, so you guys should be able to see this. I'm up here in the corner. All right, cool. So I will add this video right here when this is done, so that won't say that anymore. But basically for today, what you're doing is you are going to read Ruby Holler, chapters 18 through 22. So you guys should have your copy of the book back home with you. I made sure that you guys all had those. So you should have that with you. Now, chapters 18 through 22. You guys not last week, 2 weeks ago, will be 3 weeks by the time you view this, or not over 3 weeks ago. You guys read these chapters 18 through 22. I think you guys already read some of them. I was trying to look back on stuff. I couldn't remember where we exactly stopped. So we're just going to review those chapters. There's some good character stuff in there. And then so you guys will just be reading those chapters for today. And then after you have read those chapters, you are going to click on the following link to the written answers Google Doc right here. Now within this Google Doc, there are questions for you to answer, just like you have been answering in class a couple of weeks ago. And these are the same kind of questions that require that very structured paragraph to answer them. So I'm not going to really go into too much of that, but first let's open up this Google Doc and get it formatted and set up for you guys so you guys know what you're doing. So you guys just follow along with this as you're watching, and it should explain everything to you. So I've put some information here for you guys to see just in that format with, restating the question as a topic sentence at the beginning. You make your point and argument. Then you introduce quote evidence, side evidence correctly. That's just like parenthesis, creech, comma, the page number, in parenthesis, period. You guys know how to do that. And then you will analyze and explain that evidence, and then, of course, put a clincher sentence, concluding sentence that ties this all together, and especially if you can tie it all together in a new way in some form that you haven't already said. So for the topic sentence, however, when you do that, I've included additional guidance in answering the questions in parentheses. And those parenthetical remarks are not, they're not meant to be restated in your first sentence. You don't have to do that. Those are just kind of there just to let you have some extra help if you need it, since I'm not going to really be there to guide your formation of these questions. And with that in mind, I'm not going to grade these as harshly as I would if we were in class. So just keep that in mind. Now, that doesn't mean not to do your best work. You still do your best work on it, but if I can tell that there was some misunderstanding in the question, so long as you tried and you followed the structure and you're getting more in the habit of that format, that's what I'm really looking forward to, and that you're able to at least answer something of the question. That's not like a free pass to slack off or anything, but that's there anyway. So anyway, sorry for this first one. I say something here, and then I give you just a little bit of extra help in trying to answer that particular question. But anyway, let's get this thing set up first. Okay, so just like you did with your Coronavirus Chronicle for Writing class, you will go up here and select File. You will make a copy. You will name the file RHWA. That stands for Ruby Holler Written Answers. And then you will put a comma, I believe is what I have you guys doing. Yes, you'll put a comma and then your last name. So this is me, I just put comma Marsh. I've got Aubrey's last name in there as an example. And then I would click OK. And then what you'll also end up doing is you will delete this first page. Go like that, get rid of that, bring this up to the top. You'll have to center it again, and then you just put your name here. So I've typed by Austin. I don't know why I'm in all caps. So by Austin Marsh. You can hit enter there if you want to, and then you will just answer your question next to the A right here. Oh, excuse me. you'll just put your question, type it out right there. And then the last thing you have to do, the final step, is let me move my face over here. Now I'm in this corner. Cool. So what you'll do now is you will click share, just like you did with the other thing. You'll type in a Marsh, rca@gmail.com, and then you'll make sure that I can edit it. There we go. And you will click send, and my phone will buzz immediately when you do that. It just did. Oh, there it is. I'm hearing phantom buzzes, but there it is. Okay, so I'll get that immediately when you do that, and then that'll allow me to check and make sure of your work. So go ahead and send it to me as soon as you make it, just so you don't forget to do that. And then I'll be able to check your work from there. So this first question is what you're going to be doing here. So I'm asking you in chapter 22, create some indirect contrast between two sets of characters. What are the significant differences between the Trepids and the Mories? And of course, the Mories being Tiller and Sari. And then your extra help. So think about this. What might Creech be revealing about these characters? So just if we were going to start this, I'm going to help you guys out on this first one just so we can get back in the hang of what I'm wanting you guys to do. We could first change the question into a part of a statement. We don't have to include all of it, but just the main part. So I would actually start with the second sentence here because the first one just kind of sets it up. So, or you could put them together, but to keep it simple, let's write, there are significant differences between the Trepids and the Mories. Okay, and then you could start off and you could say for one, or for example, you could say something like that. Creech writes, or Creech characterizes, if you want to, characterizes Mr. Trepid as a whatever he is, and then you could write when she writes. And then, of course, you put your quote in here, so, or you quote your evidence. And remember, when I say quote, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's something that somebody said. A quote is anything that you are taking out of the book and putting into your writing. It's not just something, it doesn't have to be something that somebody at a character said. It can be a piece of narration. It can be anything. And then after that, you would put Creech, whatever the page number is. I'm just picking a random page, and then period outside of that. Okay, so that's there. Let me actually copy and paste this over. So I'm going to copy that, and then I'll put this on the document that you guys actually have, just so you can use that as a model. You can end up, deleting all of that, backspacing all of that if you want to. Or you can just, fill in the blanks and put your quotes in and start off from there. I don't care how you do it, make it your own, whatever you do, but that's there for you guys to start off with doing all of that. So let me check grade link one more time. Of course, it knocked me out. Okay, so yeah, so that's all you have to do for today is read chapters 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22. It's not a lot. Y'all know how short these chapters are. And then you will answer those particular questions. Okay, so that is that for that. Okay, now, the other thing that we need to look at, and then I'll try to wrap this video up, is, as I said earlier, it's been a little over 3 weeks since I've read any of this book. I don't even know if y'all remember some of it. So that's kind of a big deal. So I think it would be beneficial for you guys to try to find, and actually, don't do that. Don't find an online summary. I just changed my mind right now. See, this is what I do in normal class anyway, because if you read an online summary, that'll spoil the endings of the book, and I don't want to do that. So I'll just explain it for you because that's what all good teachers should do. So story starts off, we've got these two twins named Dallas and Florida. They are called the Trouble Twins because they continue to be sent back to the orphanage foster care home that they are living in, the Boxton Creek home, which is managed by the Mr. and Mrs. Trepid, who are not the best people. Now, Dallas and Florida, to their credit, aren't bad kids necessarily. They just always manage to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, or something is misinterpreted or misconstrued by the people who are acting as their foster parents. So they're called the Trouble Twins, and they finally get sent back to the home. all the time. And we're led to believe this has happened about 4 or 5 times, maybe probably even more. But we find out a lot about them. We find out that they both have very strong characteristics, even though they're twins. Florida doesn't really trust people, and Dallas tries to see more of the best in people. Florida has a lot more wild of an imagination than her brother, but Florida is also more destructive than her brother, who can be a little bit more productive at times. We see that through the barn scene that we discussed right before we left school, where Florida has to, she can't see what she's doing and working on the boat in the barn. And so she, makes a window, and she makes a window by hacking out a side of the barn so she can have some light. To her credit, very smart, but it was also very destructive. So she has this practical intelligence, but she doesn't always think it all the way through. She's not the most logical person, whereas Dallas tends to be a little bit more logical, a little bit more forgiving towards people. But going back to where the story is, at one point in the story, 2 people, the Morys, Tiller and Sari, they're an older couple, they actually come seeking in companionship and, of 2 kids to join them on their various trips that they're going to take this summer. They're going off to different places, and they think that having the kids around could help them prepare for the trips and also give them some companionship on the trip, because Tiller and Sari are old. They're not going on the same vacation. They know what they want, but what they want is not what the other one wants. And so they're both going to go off on their separate trips or whatever. But through their experiences, Florida starts working with Tiller on preparing a boat and fixing a boat, and Dallas starts working with Sari to get all of their materials together for their bird hunting expedition that they're going on, whereas Tiller and Florida will be going on a river kind of expedition. But they're both very adventurous. And Tiller and Sari are also older grandparent type characters who have had at least 4 children. They live in this lovely place called Ruby Holler that's kind of set out away from everywhere. And the biggest thing about them is that they live a life free of electricity. There's no electricity down in the holler, and they just kind of live a really primitive life. But they're very caring towards the kids. They love the kids, but the kids, of course, well, Florida more so, is a little bit more wary of trusting these kids and where things kind of go from there. So that is kind of where I'll leave you on that. You guys can read chapters 18 through 22. It includes a journey back to the Boxton Creek home, not because Tiller and Sari are sending the kids back, but just because they have to meet with the Trepids to handle some paperwork and stuff before they go off on their vacation trips. So anyway, I will leave you guys with that. I know that this video was jam-packed with a lot of stuff, but just follow along best as you can, answer those questions. If you need me, as always, have your parents or you yourself, which I would actually prefer, send me an email, and we'll go from there. So I will see you guys soon. And let me end this thing because I don't know how to bring it back to myself. Okay, now we're done. All right. Bye, guys.